I wanted this game to be good, I really did, but I did go into the game with very low expectations. The initial announcement was crazy for about 10 seconds, but it already had a lot working against it before it was even released. First, it's a November release. It's not exactly uncommon for a lot of November-December games to be barely functional because they were rushed to completion so it'd be out in time for Christmas. Second, it's Hyrule Warriors. I don't own a lot of Wii U games, but out of the few I do own, Hyrule Warriors was my least favorite. And I own two Skylander games, so that alone should tell you how bad this game was. Third, the pre-launch demo. Just look at this. I thought it was so good when I first started playing it, but I was already bored by the demo's second level. Not to mention the incessant frame drops and abysmal time travel cutscene that foreshadowed painful and unnecessary retcons. That being said, I am a dumbass, so I bought the game anyway. I guess the real question is, was the game good? It was awful. I mean, I do have to give credit where credit is due. There are a few things it gets right. The music slaps way harder than most of the games I played this year. Robbie, Purr, and Impa absolutely stole the show every time they were on screen. Seeing the iconic open areas of Breath of the Wild transformed into these gorgeous, sprawling, maze-like levels was awe-inspiring. And there's a few other impressive moments in this game, and I'll talk about them more later in the video. But in the face of everything this game gets wrong, the things it gets right are utterly meaningless. This game just has so many unforgivable problems that I don't even know where to start. How about we start with the combat? That's the most obvious problem. The combat is abysmal. If I had to describe it in a single word, I'd call it brainless. If I had to describe it in one paragraph, I'd say it has the exact same problem that Kingdom Hearts 3 has. The combat consists mainly of mashing one button until you charge your special attack and then waiting for the attack cutscene to end. Nearly every fight feels exactly the same. Regardless of what weapon you're using, what character you pick, or what attack button you're pressing, there is next to no variety in the combat. A few characters like Riju and Hastu do actually feel drastically different, but not in a good way. Riju can't hit anyone, and Hastu has no weight to his combat. Odds are you'll end up playing the rest of the cast, who, unlike Riju and Hastu, are unique in visuals alone. But credit where credit is due, the devs did actually do something very cool to break up the monotony. There are 3 different attack buttons, X, Y, and R2, and each one does something different depending on what character you're playing. Only problem is, half the characters don't even have an R2 attack. When you press R2 while playing them, you'll get an ability that augments how the X button attack works, which is interesting, but the only characters with interesting modifiers are Zelda, Impa, and Koga. They also added 7 special abilities to each character. The first 3 use the elemental wands from Breath of the Wild and can cripple elemental enemies. Fire and ice kill each other, obviously, and lightning has no strength or weakness whatsoever. So, that's dumb, but I guess it's not Pokemon, so points for uniqueness. But I almost never used these wands because they have limited uses and it takes forever to recharge them. Killing Wizrobes is too much time for way too little output. You don't even need the wands because the game is just so damn easy. The other 4 special abilities are the 4 abilities from the Sheikah Slate. All of the characters can use these, and every character gets a unique action with unique inputs for each of these abilities. It's actually really cool and makes combat way more interesting. It's so cool that I'm willing to overlook the massive plot hole it creates. Plus, these special abilities are utilized against bosses and mini-bosses in a relatively interesting fashion. All of the bosses and mini-bosses have little skill checks where you have to use a Sheikah Slate ability in a softcore QTE to put them in a stagger state and get a cutscene attack. This is a lot of fun and helps cut down the boss and mini-boss health bars, which is very important because these enemies are less of the difficult to beat variety and more of the they had a lot of health so it takes forever to beat them variety, which is abysmal, but they're still more fun than the rest of the game. The only issue is, Magnesis and Cryonis are basically useless unless you're fighting against bosses, so the only Sheikah abilities you'll ever use are Bomb and Stasis. These are solid abilities and kind of fun to use, but I really wish all 4 were as fleshed out as these 2. Needless to say, the gameplay kinda sucks overall. The game tries to cover up these issues by giving each character incredibly unique animations for their combat. Impa, Zelda, and Monk are perfect examples of this and perhaps have the best animations. But the levels are so unbearably long that by the time you've played half the level, you've already seen everything your new character has to offer, and from that point on, they're no longer an example of artistic talent, just another symbol for mindless button mashing.
Tiger Woods!
Even worse than the gameplay are the side quests, if you can even call them that. Just look at this map! What a cluttered mess! The amount of shit on screen is utterly overwhelming, and none of it is good. Remember in my review of Yakuza when I said that I dislike side quests that are all nearly identical and don't differentiate themselves from the core gameplay? Well, I found something worse. The majority of these side quests are just clicking on an icon, getting a request to trade items for unlocks, not having the items you need, playing a few of the actual gameplay quests that are nearly identical to the normal levels, and then trading the quest rewards for a costume, recipe, or a heart canister for one of your characters. That's not fun. That's not even gameplay. That's a point-and-click adventure without the adventure part.
I am going to have a meltdown.
Even the side quests that are actual gameplay are awful. It's just the same gameplay as the normal game, with a smaller, uglier map and a crappy time limit. Remember when I said that the boss battles are long, but none of them are hard? Yeah, that's the entire game. Every aspect of this game takes so much time that by the time you're finished, you don't even care anymore. It was very rare that I ever lost in this game, and with one exception, every time I lost, it was because they put this stupid-ass time limit on side quests where you have to fight Lionels. HowLongToBeat.com says it takes about 21 hours to beat this game, and I'm pretty sure that 9 of those hours are Lionel fights and the remaining 12 are frame drops. So why in the name of all things holy and unholy is there a time limit on my side quest?
But Josh, if you hate these side quests so much, why don't you just not do them? You don't think I already tried that? You don't have a choice, you Nimrod! First of all,
multiple unlockable characters are locked behind side quests, so that's fun. Second of all, a bunch of heart canisters and additional power bars are hidden behind side quests as well. Third of all, this game has the crappiest leveling system on the planet. Why does this beat-em-up style hack and slash, based on a franchise famous for not having levels, have a leveling system? The answer is simple. I don't know. But what I do know is that this one sucks. In a real RPG, leveling systems aren't nearly as invasive as they are in this game. For example, in turn-based games like Persona and Pokemon, you can be 10 or 20 levels below your opponent and still wipe the floor with them using strategy and game knowledge. It's still very hard to win at low levels, but not impossible. In shooter, beat 'em up, and real hack and slash RPGs, you can also be very underleveled and still kick ass using skill and game knowledge. Worst case scenario is you can't unlock a box and need to come back later after you've leveled up a secondary skill like lockpicking. Kinda feels like Metroid, to be honest. In Age of Calamity, there is no skill, strategy, or game knowledge, so if you are underleveled, you cannot win. On the 16th level, I got fed up with needing to grind to each of the recommended levels for each stage, so I went in underleveled and lost like 8 times in a row.
You're probably wondering, how underleveled was I? 10 levels? 20 levels? Heaven forbid 30 levels! 4. It was 4 levels.
I grinded a bit, reached the recommended level, came back and whooped the game's ass. It's really not a huge issue, but the fact that 4 tiny little levels made the difference between kicking ass and eating shit just didn't sit right with me. The way you level up kinda sucks too. You go into side quests, grind out some XP and rupees until one of your characters is the right level, and then you use rupees to buy the rest of the levels for the rest of your characters. This was dumb in Genshin, and it's just as dumb here. The only difference is I don't like this game, and this system means I don't have to play it as much. Alright, here's the moment of truth. The story. From what I've seen on social media, people hate the Warrior series, and bought this game exclusively for the story. Hell, I bought this game exclusively for the story.
Yes. This book is very interesting.
But how is the story? Good? Bad? Non-existent?
It's bad.
What? What? Why? Why would they do this? It's so bad. They were so specific about marketing this as a prequel to Breath of the Wild, but it is so obviously not that just from the first cutscene alone. They put so much effort into lying to us about it being a prequel that it's honestly impressive that they were able to tell such a coherent lie. Obviously, the time travel makes it impossible for the story to even be close to the original, but even the sections that take place before the time travel become so invasive are retconned to hell and back. There are 18 memories in Breath of the Wild that tell the story of Calamity Ganon. Guess how many are in this game? None. There are a few scenes that try to mirror those ones, but with different context and missing characters, and I can't help but ask, why? They could have easily just copy-pasted the original scenes. It would have been easier and better. They wouldn't have needed to do rewrites. The story is already a disjointed, plot-hole-filled, nonsensical mess. If anything, using 2 or 3 of the original cutscenes would have helped streamline it. The problem doesn't stop there. These characters are all reduced to one-dimensional cardboard cutouts of their former selves. Mipha is relegated to the background, Hestu is introduced for literally no reason, and then does nothing for the rest of the game. Urbosa and Zelda's sisterly relationship is almost non-existent, and all of Zelda's character development is completely deleted. I could go on, but it's just too depressing and infuriating how they gutted these characters. I loved them so much in Breath of the Wild and wanted more of them, and yet somehow got less of them despite them being the main characters of this game. And now that it's over, I'm sad for all of the wrong reasons. Especially since no one died. They pulled literally every punch they could and refused to kill anyone. I mean, it's not like I wanted any of these characters to die, but the backstory of the original game was tragic yet beautiful, and the story of this game is just a disappointing laughingstock. So basically, nothing Breath of the Wild fans liked about Breath of the Wild's story is present in this game. There are a few good moments though. Zelda's speeches, all the clans of Hyrule coming together to save the kingdom as one single army, and the last stand of the champions, to name a few. These are all amazing, powerful moments that I really wanted to see, but not here. Not like this. Oh god, why? This game does get some things right, like music, map design, visuals, Impa, Purah, and Robbie, but when your game is this bad, do the good parts even matter? I don't think they do, and that's why I'm giving Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity a 3 out of 10. Nintendo's just going out on a real low note this year. Not that they would have been going out on a particularly high one without this game.